Hey, good morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution, episode 372. Happy Sunday. A little late today. I did sleep in, um, brewed some coffee, uh, took some pictures of some cards that I bought yesterday to do file exchange. So, a little after 9 here Central. Want to review the Madison Card Show. Yesterday, we had our September show, and it was quite the success. So I want to talk about that today. Didn't really buy anything, and I actually went. I actually planned on maybe looking for some bulk deals and didn't really find, I wasn't really looking too hard. There were some Cubs cards that I passed on just because it was one of those things where it's like, I'll pass on it. Um, a month ago, I was like in full buy mode, like the month of July, August. I probably would have pulled the trigger on quite a few things, but now strategy has changed a bit. Um, so I didn't buy. Actually, the only Cubs card that I bought was, and I don't have it down here with me, was a Javi Baez green from top this year's tops. One of those green. I think it's a retail exclusive, number two, 499, I believe. Picked it up for like $2. So added to the hobby PC, and then also a rated rookie autograph of Logan Allen for $2. So dug through some bargain boxes and found those two finds. Also picked up some repacks. Um, Quentin, who's a vendor, he's done the show a few times now. He rips a lot of retail wax and then puts in some repacks. And I bought a bunch of baseball and basketball a few months ago, and there was like a lot of great stuff in them. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna buy more. I'm like, let's just make a deal on all of your baseball, football, basketball. And so picked up, gosh, maybe almost 1,000 cards. So it's like new stuff. And I really need to fill in my quarter boxes. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. I'll talk about my strategy as a vendor with my bargain boxes. Um, so with the repacks, I'm actually going to list a lot of the football rookies. I'll do a file exchange. That's what I was taking photos of this morning. So I'll get those entered at some point this week. Um, the basketball I'll probably just sit on for another few weeks. And then baseball, we'll do a file exchange. Not as many Cubs, but there wasn't as many baseball repacks this time. So that's kind of the plans on what I'm going to do with those cards. Speaking of basketball, real quick, it does seem like basketball seemed, we had a slight increase back in whenever summer league was, June, July. There was kind of a takeoff on basketball, just a little bit. And then once summer league ends, it's just like you don't hear anything about the NBA. And same goes within the hobby. It just kind of dies down the off season, um, you know, the off season stuff. So a few vendors were actually talking about, yeah, I've started to one guy watches the card ladder, and prices are on their way up. So that's a good thing. My buddy Mark, who sits up next to me, he sold a Giannis rookie. I think it was a 9.5. So he moved that yesterday. So basketball's taken off. So we'll see if it's going to be, it really last season it really fell off, even below pre-pandemic basketball. Basketball in 20, after Luka, and then it really died down last year. So it's going to be interesting basketball fares price wise, and I really took some small gambles on a bunch of rookie prism slabs, just to kind of speculate on lower tier. If one of the guys breaks out, it's a good buy. So that's kind of where I'm at. So let's go over the Madison Card Show. It was a great success. So we had a record number of tables and vendors. I think I had a couple no shows. Two of the three no shows actually reached out though ahead of time and said, "Hey, I can't make it." One of them actually, I mean, super nice. He actually came and he was supposed to set up with, I think, his son, and something came up and he's like, "Here, I want to pay for my table because I said I'd be here." And I'm like, "No, I no, like you coming in is actually worth more to me than the $50. So keep the money and maybe we can make it work next month." That's just, I mean, that's above and beyond. Um, so that was really cool. One guy I really ticked me off because he secured three tables, and the three tables that he had were like right in the middle, and he didn't text, he didn't call, didn't just he just no showed, no call, no show, three tables right in the middle. That really ticked me off. So you're gonna have that, and that's what after the show, the guys from Mike and John from Rockford, we were just kind of brainstorming, shooting the bull, and that's one thing that I said. So how I set this up this year, and I don't think I talked about this because I didn't go live Saturday. So the room is set up on Friday. So I went in Friday afternoon, and what's up, Dr? Have you ever seen a happy hour after a card show for folks to hang out and socialize? Yes, I'm gonna get to that in just a moment. Um, so so Friday afternoon went in. I had a lot of tables, more than we've had. So a lot of them were twos and threes, and we don't have the tables. They don't set them up to where they're all together. They have them actually. Okay, here's two tables, and then there's space, three tables, one table. So I want to make sure, we have the right amount, which I think I'm going to change because we had a couple issues right at setup in the morning. So now moving forward with this amount of tables, strategic. So I'm going to lay out a map for the venue. Okay, this is kind of how we want the layout moving forward. And that'll actually save on like actually having to put name tags down. Here's your two. Here's your group of three. Um, so since we had that, I went in Friday afternoon. I had name tags for each table, but it wasn't like assigned seating. I there was only a couple spots, my spot, Mark's spot, and then a couple others that I know this is where they want to be, put them there. But the rest, it's like, okay, if you find a single table, I've got your name tag here on this table. But if you want to swap it out, you can, just basically pick first come, first serve. But, we have some of it reserved. So that's kind of how, I'd like to move that forward because it also gives me an idea of, okay, I have everybody everywhere, but there's always going to be that last second. I didn't have my mistake. There were two vendors that are regulars that I didn't have down on my sheet. But I had put out a couple extra tables, so it was no issue. But then we also had some no shows. So I put out extra tables, but then I have a no show with three tables. So it worked out. I think we had 48 is what the final. We actually had 48 tables filled. So I really like the aspects. I had a couple new vendor. We ended up with two of the no shows were new vendors. So 8 new vendors set up. So that was great. And a couple of them said, lock me up for October. So that's awesome to hear and see. Answer that question. So we actually talked about this, and I because my friend Mark sets up next to me, and we've done a couple shows together, and we're talking about trade nights. And Mark went to the national. I think it was his first national, and I think he went to a trade night. And my co-promoter Johnny, he's moving, so um, I'll be the sole promoter, but we have like a text string and just talking cards, and we've been like discussing for basically since the national about trade nights because trade night at the national was so popular, and I'm hesitant to move forward with a trade night or a happy hour because I just don't see. in my venue, in my show, I don't see that as something that will, I just don't see it being an event, because, our show runs by 2 o'clock. We had a few vendors, pack up and go for, whatever you're going to have that. Um, but Joe did something like this, last month, and they do kind of break. So they'll do like, so after their show last month, they did some breaks and did like a happy hour slash trade night. And it was a lot of vendors that just kind of stuck around. And that's kind of what I, would expect. It would be cool. So I'm on the fence. I just don't know if it would be like a post show, because trade nights at, say, the Dallas Card Show, which is, I think, when we really started hearing about trade nights and how popular they were, was Dallas. Probably what, the May show, the really big one they had, and then of course the National. And I think those were so successful because those are destination shows where they're multi-day and people are in hotels and they came for the card shows. So at night, maybe they have plans for dinner, or maybe, hey, a baseball game if it's in a city with a team. So, but a lot of people don't have plans. And it's like, hey, let's just get together in the hotel lobby and do a trade night. And all of a sudden it's like everybody's doing a trade. Everybody is going to that trade night. I think for a single day show, it's just not something that would be appealing for many people. And I think you'll have a sprinkling of, a lot of the vendors. Well, I marked this day off for cards, so yeah, I'll stick around for a couple hours and maybe we order pizzas and have a beer or something down in the lobby. But I'm hesitant. My feet are hurting. I was I was at the hotel at 6 a.m. and we stuck around, and I think it was almost 4:30 by the time it's kind of like I'm just ready to go home, unload the cards. If I pick up cards, go through those and just kind of call it a day. If it's a multi-day show, it's a weekend show, I think definitely there's a demand for something like that. But for just a small hotel show, for a one-day small hotel show, I just don't think a happy hour or trade night type of event would work. I think it would be cool to have just kind of a almost like a card club type. I know that sounds super nerdy, but almost like a card club event at, like, say, a Buffalo Wild Wings, and like just basically your buddies, like guys you meet at the show, that may be in the same city. Like, hey, let's meet up, on the third Wednesday night of the month, or maybe third, and maybe rips. I would be more attracted to that type of thing, other than like an actual post show trade night or break night. So, but that's just me, and I know other people, that's just kind of my takeaways. How many Cubs cards would buy someone a table, like Panini points for Bo? Kind of depends. So basically, I pay, if it's just commons, a penny a card. So I think, $50. I usually, a 5,000 count box. I would write it off for a 5,000. I can't do too much because I do have to pay the bill for the advertisements in the hotel. So I can't be trading too many tables away. So speaking of, before I go further into the card show review, while we're on that Cubs card topic, I'm still counting my cards from last weekend's Mike Summerhall. I'm like counting like 1,500 at a time, it seems. So I'm probably only 25% of the way through all those boxes. So I think when I wrap up here, I'm gonna try to get a couple more boxes counted, and then do my eBay shipping and stuff. So I am at like right around 700,000, because what I got from Mike was about 30,000. I'm at my current count without those is like 670,000. So what I picked up from Mike last weekend should put me right around that 700,000 mark. So that's where I'm at with the Cubs cards. So Madison Card Show review, great success yesterday. I mentioned the record amount of vendors and tables. The issue was, hey, that's great. That's great. But there's always a but. It's great having a record amount of vendors, but you also have to have a record amount or a good crowd. You have to have the customers that are buying stuff from the vendors. Otherwise, the vendors don't want to come back because the show stunk. So that was my concern, because back in June, I knew our June show was going to be big. We started off slow with our April show. I think we only had 18 tables, 17 tables in April. I think our May show, we were up in the mid to upper 20s. And then all of a sudden June took off, and I think we had 42 or 44 tables. But our June show, it was like all of the customers from our May show got a table in June. And we had far less amount of traffic at our June show. And I know a couple vendors dropped off after that. And I know one we had actually discussed, and his inventory was just not, it just wasn't a good small hotel show type of, very niche, I should say. And so he's like, hey, I love the show. I have fun, but I can't, spend $50 for a table every month and not sell anything, which, hey, I totally understand. I get it, because I've been on that. I am on that side of the, after travel expenses and lunch and all that. So that was my concern, was we have to have the traffic. It's great to have the amount of, you have to find that balance. I would rather have 30 tables, 35 tables, and nice size than 48 tables and nobody show up or upset because there was no traffic. So you got to find that balancing point. But you don't want a whole lot of people and not enough vendors, because then the people don't want to come back because, well, there's only 10 vendors, 20 vendors. So you just have to find that balancing point, and we're getting there. So I like the way things are moving in that direction. Record amount of vendors. We have, several vendors are going to come back. The regulars are, they're in. A lot of people, we had a lot of, what I talked to, a lot of people were there for the first time. And there was a mom brought, son and some friends, and they hung out at the bargain boxes like probably an hour, 2 hours, like back and forth. They'd run to another table and they'd go back. And so that's really cool to see. And, mom says, this is their first card show. So they don't really know what to do. They're just running from table to table, and they're picking out, here's 4 cards for $1, or, okay, you can have this one. So it was great to see. There's still a lot, one of the vendors, he's like, yeah, this is the first time I've ever set up at a card show, and he had a good time and he made some sales, and he's like, yeah, I want to come back next month. So that's great. That's what I want to hear. I want to see the kids having fun. I want to see the new people coming out, and of course the regulars as well. So we had a great turnout, bigger out than last month, which last month was, it's like, wow, this is tough. And I want, when we get those high points in the morning, I want to get out and take some pictures. And it's like, I take some pictures, and then all of a sudden I, get, tied up at the table, and I don't get a chance to continue. So great. Collectors new and old, had a question. I mentioned this on Twitter. I tweeted out last night about and out of kids yesterday. And I know a couple of people, well, were they looking at slabs, or were they actually looking at bargain boxes, like like when we were kids? Times change. Like look at, I know everybody, like especially around my age, you kind of, I see a lot of this on social media, poo-pooing the younger generation. And that's just, every generation is going to poo-poo on the younger generation. So I see a lot of, well, yeah, but there's a lot of kids there. But yeah, but are they buying slabs? Are they carrying Pelican? Are they the flippers? Okay, here's the thing. When we were kids, it's like it wasn't like it was 30 years ago. You're right, it wasn't. And 30 years ago, it wasn't like it was the previous 30 years ago. Because, hey, 30 years ago, I was looking at the Beckett magazine when I pulled a 1990 Fleer Kevin Moss out of a pack from the IGA grocery store. I was going to my Beckett. Hey, what's this worth? This is worth $3. What's up, Mike? Good morning. So yeah, kids were looking at prices 30 years ago. Maybe, maybe those people that say that are poo-pooing, maybe they weren't, but I was, and I had friends that were. We'd pick up that Bo Jackson Beckett. We'd look up 90 Fleer prices. Hey, Kevin Moss is $4 now because he hit 8 home runs this week. So yeah, we were doing it 30 years ago. And guess what? Our parents were looking at us like, oh, all the kids want to do, they think it's investment. They think it's, maybe they didn't use that word, but they think it's all about money. The cards are all about money. When I was a kid 30 years ago, we didn't have price guides. We weren't looking up prices of cards. We weren't looking to make money on cards. We were throwing them at the wall. We were putting them in bicycle spokes. So guess what? 30 years ago, yeah, it was different. But remember, 30 years ago in 1991, it was a hell of a lot different than what it was in 1961. So try to keep that perspective, because we always look at Kevin Moss, the man. Yeah, we always look at it like, well, when I was a kid, it was a hobby. No, it wasn't. It was a business. It really never was a hobby, because Topps wasn't created to give out free cards and free gum to kids as a hobby. Like, Topps has always been around to make money. It's always been a business. Now, to the masses, maybe it was a hobby. Maybe it still is a true hobby. You're not looking up prices and whatnot. But remember, it's a business to pretty much everybody involved. Maybe as an end user, it's just a hobby. But for everybody else, at some point in that supply chain, there's money to be made. It's a business. So that's my little bit of soapbox. So yeah, my purchases, vendors, crowd. Now on to the bad. I guess I'll just follow up my soapbox with the bad news. We had some theft. And I know there's a lot of shows that theft is kind of like, oh, you want to keep it hush hush. I don't want to keep it hush hush because I want it to be known that there is theft and that there's the potential of theft. I had an instance last month where somebody came up to me after the show, and fortunately it was just, a $40 slab, but still, that you don't want that. You don't want theft at all. But, at least it wasn't a $3,000 card or a $5,000 card or whatnot. But we don't want any. But it's hard to police, and it's kind of on each individual to make sure. And I know that we had a long talk about this after the show. How do we prevent this, and how do we try to curtail it? And it's hard to do, but I don't want to keep it hush hush. I want to say, yeah, we had some issues, because I want people to know. I want the vendors to know, because if you keep it hush hush, and then the vendors, they may think, oh, there's, nobody, maybe some vendors are more trusting than others, and, just kind of take it for granted, like, oh, nobody's going to steal from me. Well, guess what? We've had issues. I want you to be on your toes. I want you to make sure. Now, I hate being I go back to my 90 Fleer at IGA. We had a cashier, older lady, Beatrice. And Beatrice would watch kids like a hawk, and it just annoyed the crap out of me because I wasn't one of those kids that was going to steal packs of cards. But maybe Beatrice made me always feel guilty. Maybe it's because of Beatrice at the IGA, always eyeing the kids in the candy aisle. I hate being Beatrice, eyeing the kids, eyeing the customers, making sure they're not stealing. Fortunately for me, if somebody wants to steal a few 25-cent cards, whatever. If that's what gets you off, do it. But it sucks for the people that don't have bargain boxes and that have the higher end cards, and they have to keep, especially if they have multiple tables. I'll be Beatrice. Um, so it's just it sucks, but it's an issue. And I don't think any show, any any type of this, whether it's a garage sale, flea market, or whatever, if you have collectibles and smaller stuff, there's always going to be that threat of theft. So we just all have to be on our toes. It's there. We had issues, and let's make sure we don't have any issues, and try to prevent future issues. So just trying to get an idea on, okay, watch, you know these people may have been involved last month, so keep a close eye. Let the buddy system, the table next to you, Mark and I, we kind of watch over each other's stuff. Mark has way nicer stuff than I do, way nicer stuff than I do. So I'm more apt to keep an eye on his stuff than care about my 3 tables of 25-cent cards. Buddy system. Mike and I were talking about a camera, and I actually had the very first show we did back in April. I was going to go live on YouTube, and I went live for about 5 seconds, and then I got pulled away. So it's like, okay, going YouTube live is not a good idea because there's just so much going on. But I had that, and I just left the top and the camera out. Excuse me. Just because I didn't put it away. It was, it wasn't, I didn't mean to, but I did notice a couple people like kind of look at the camera almost like, is this a security camera? That's a good preventative measure. You don't even have to have it on, but if it's there and maybe it does prevent, maybe somebody's thinking about it, but they look over and they see a camera and they're not gonna try anything. So I think that's a good preventative measure, just a cheap webcam, maybe even signs. And I see these, at the bigger shows like Smile, You're on Camera, or thefts will be prosecuted, whatever. Maybe they don't have much teeth, but it's a preventative measure. So yeah, we just have to be on our toes. And not just our show, but like every show, and not just card shows, but flea markets and garage sales and just things in general. DR says, how many hours do you put into pulling off a show? The planning, coordinating, communicating, and everything. That's hard to tell. It's hard to track because it's kind of like here and there. Sometimes it's a 30-second text, and it's not like I sit down and do all that at one time. I've got a spreadsheet and I need to make the October spreadsheet. So I'll sit down. That'll take me a couple minutes. And then, people will call or text, and it's hard to track because there's so many like really small, minute, communication, where it may be a 30-second text. It may be a 4-minute phone call. It may be 10 minutes spent on creating the spreadsheet. It may be an hour going out to the venue. So, it's really hard number to that. Right. Now this is, getting a few under your belt. It's a little easier. Just because, it's kind of like, things, and slower, like in your mind, in your brain. So you're more streamlined. You just kind of know, you're not thinking a lot. Well, that sounds bad. You are thinking a lot, but it's just, you get in that groove. And you're not overspending on time because you know what you're doing. And that just comes with, more and more experience. In the next month, I'll probably be spending a little more time because I've got to talk about next year's dates, the contract for next year, so that there's going to be a little more time involved with that. So yeah, it's really, it's hard to put a number to that. Mike says, I'm going to check into one today for sure. And yeah, a webcam I think you can pick up for, I don't know, maybe $30 now, $25. And I mean, really, it can just be a cheap one. Diego says, I always get watched when at a card show. I have to introduce myself to make my experience better. That sucks. That does suck. You know, I hate the Beatrice like looking over me. Like I want a vendor to like actually talk. That's actually a preventative measure in itself. Saying hi, asking, "Can I help you? Is there anything that you're looking for?" That in itself is a preventative measure. It throws them off a little bit. Um, so that just being uh, being communicative is a good theft deterrent in some cases. Now, is there like there's not a golden key? There's not a golden key where that's going to work. You know, that is not going to work on everybody. A webcam is not going to work on everybody. A sign's not going to work on everybody. Having a security guard roaming around is not going to, you know, it's all of these things. Like you're still going to have issues. Look at the Dallas Card Show. I mean, they have like a full security team, I think, and thefts still happen. So there's not just one thing. It's just I think the biggest deterrent is, you know, doing your best to monitor and police your table yourself. That's and I get it. Like a lot of these, it's almost like a gang of gypsies. They come in packs of 4 and 5, and you know this one wants to ask you, and all of a sudden, if you're a vendor by yourself, and it's really hard to track, and it's just try to notice those situations, and maybe you know that's when a buddy system can come into effect, whether it's somebody you or maybe it's a vendor that doesn't have anybody at their table. They're like, hey, can you you know watch this? Um, Mostly because I am processing, I tend to stand there. Um, so yeah, so that was the Madison Card Show. A successful show, but yeah, there were issues, and that's and that's something that you know I think is going to happen, and just make it aware. Awareness is key. Just so everybody knows that hey, um, there's a lot of good, but there's some bad also. So I'm looking forward to the Rockford Card Show, which is in 2 weeks. Is that right? 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. October 8th, I think. October 8th. Is that a Saturday? Um, October 9th. October 9th. Saturday, October 9th. At the Rockford Card Show. I will be there. And then our next show in Madison is October 23rd. So looking forward to those dates. I need to really bulk up my bargain boxes because they're pretty stale now because I've been taking. I mean, I basically just bring the same boxes and I'll add, and I added some stuff. I didn't really add as much this month, maybe a couple hundred cards, but when there's thousands and thousands, doesn't really look like much. So I really need to turn over the quarter boxes. I had more, and kind of how I I can sense that is I had a lot of transactions. I had the most transactions today. How do I go back? Um, oh man, where is the on my phone? So I had September show. I had 36 and a lot of them were small dollar sales. I only had one sale that was like a bulk buy, a $40 sale. Um, you know, dollar, $2, $10, $8, $4. A lot of like, here's four for $1. So I had a lot of those smaller volume sales. What I did not do this month was I didn't do the fill a box. Because what I've run into, I'll get a couple, but I'll do a lot of the fill a box, and then people still just have piles, and I'm like, do you want a box? I don't need a box. So I just the fill a box this month. I may go back to it next month if I put a lot more new 25-cent cards in. So my August show I did well. Um, but I only had 26 sales in August. Now in August I did well dollar monetarily wise because I sold my dollar box. So I had a decent sized dollar box. We decided on a price. I almost didn't take a dollar box this time around, but then I thought, yeah, it does help boost. It takes a lot of 25-cent cards to make some money. So do some dollars, get there 4 times faster. So the guy who bought my dollar box, he was back, one of the first customers, and I said, "Hey, I've replenished the dollar box, and I'm hoping that he's going to go through and he's going to want to buy it." And this time I was prepared. Like I knew what I had in there. I knew a good price for both of us, but he didn't even ask. Bought 2 cards, and that was it. So I still have a lot of dollar cards left. Um, and then I also had the packs last month. I sold a lot of packs last month. And then what I had left, I sold to somebody on Twitter. Um, and then, yeah. So, and then what I do in July. July, we actually had a pretty good crowd. I had 28 sales in July. I think that was the second most. And then let's go back to June. July Cubs. Where June's up here. June I had 25 sales, and then I have May right here. May I had 24 sales. So and then I think April was probably around the I think April's on my computer, 20 or 25 in April. So now in those early shows, I had a lot more bulk buys just because there was a lot, it was new stuff for everybody. But now there's a lot of stale stuff. So I've just got to keep replenishing because that's all I brought. I only brought quarter cards. I went from 4 to 3 tables this month just because we had so many other tables. So that's just something I'm going to keep an eye on. And maybe next month, maybe I only do dollar. Maybe I just go full bore on dollar boxes, bring a couple quarter boxes, maybe new stuff, and then and just focus on dollar boxes because maybe I'll have to go down to 2 tables next month because we'll hopefully. I mean, I'd rather I'd rather myself go down in tables because I've got other vendors and go that way. So and I can double up on I can usually I like as a buyer. I don't like when there's 2, you have to reach over for the box at the back. I don't like that, but I get it from a space standpoint. So I just may have to double up and I can do that. So we'll see. He probably still selling off the previous box. that could be because I think he is a vendor, I think. I think he was at I think he set up at the Rockford show that I was at last month. So and if it is the guy, I actually bought some stuff out of his dollar boxes that I flipped. And I actually did pretty well. He sets up in Rockford. Okay. Yep. Yeah, because I bought he has dollar boxes and bargain boxes, and I bought probably a dozen or so dollar cards and flipped and did okay. Like $5. I think one sold for like $8 or $9, so did pretty well. And hopefully he does well on my dollar stuff. Um, so that's the Madison Card Show review. Overall, a lot of fun. It's great meeting new vendors. It's great catching up with the existing vendors and the regulars, and looking forward to Rockford in 2 weeks. So tomorrow's Monday. I will go live tomorrow, most likely. I keep teasing that big announcement. Big announcement's coming. Getting closer and closer to crossing almost all of the T's are crossed. Now I've just got to dot the I's. So I'm just getting some final preparations done, and then I can make the announcement official. I'm still aiming towards that like this Friday, October 1st, trying to make that announcement on Friday. Maybe I'll go prime time. I don't know. But as we get closer, and it may be a game day decision. It won't be Friday morning because I don't think everything will be. I don't think everything. Hoping by end of day Friday, everything will be all figured out and everything's official. So we'll talk about that. The big announcement cliffhanger. Yes, sirree. So if not Friday, maybe over the weekend or even Monday. I don't want to keep dragging it out. I don't want to keep dragging it out. Do you think you will live stream your million Cubs card at Wrigley Field? That's a great idea. I have some ideas in mind for the 1 millionth card. Um, it's all down. What I would really like the 1 millionth card to come at the National in 2023. And based on how everything, based on like projections, it's gonna be right around that time period. July 2023 is kind of when I expect to get close to a million. Right at 700,000 now. I'm averaging around 100. And I think I haven't my spreadsheet. I've really lacked on updating my spreadsheet. I have some trades from months ago that I need to finalize. So I'm looking at probably July 2023. It'd be really cool to do it at the National or Wrigley Field. Have a party at my buddy Stu's at Club 400. We're gonna go all out in celebration. So um, haven't looked into that yet. Probably this time next year, I'll definitely have a better idea. Unless like a windfall of 100,000 Cubs cards unexpectedly drop, that may speed up that timeline. Otherwise, looking at July 2023, and it seems like everybody's like, "Oh, I've got a big box for you. I'm going to wait until you're at 990,000." So I just have this feeling once I hit like 990,000, I'm going to be overwhelmed by like dozens and dozens of boxes of Cubs cards because everybody wants to be that 1 millionth card. I think the 1 millionth card should come with a free year of Cubs tickets for you, like a Wrigley Field Golden ticket. I agree with that. You should let the Cubs organization know that. They don't really respond to me. Their Twitter, I always tag them in tweets and they never respond. Probably didn't help that I said I don't want their season tickets. But hey, it is what it is. So yeah, so we'll do something big. We'll do something big. I'm gonna go count some more. Speaking of, I'm gonna go count some more Cubs cards. Plan on going live tomorrow morning. And then the rest of the week always as always kind of up in the air. So we'll talk tomorrow and have a great Sunday.